Welcome to the channel. Here, we provide clear, actionable insights into the complex world of tax and accounting to help your business thrive.
Well, it's that time of year again, when every business owner starts thinking about taxes. And right at the top of that list, 1099s. It always feels like a bit of a mad dash, but honestly, it really doesn't have to be.
So let me just ask you straight up. Are you ready for 1099 season? If you're thinking, not really, hey, don't sweat it. You are definitely in the right place. We're about to turn that feeling of uncertainty into a super clear, totally confident plan.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Our goal today is simple. We're going to break down exactly what you need to do, step by step, so you can just breeze through your 1099s without all the usual stress. First things first, what are we even talking about here? These forms cover all those payments you made during the 2025 calendar year. Think about your independent contractors, the rent you paid for your office, maybe even some royalties. Trying to sort all this out at the last minute in January is just a recipe for a headache. So let's get way ahead of the game. And that brings us to the biggest question on everyone's mind. Who actually needs to get one of these forms from me? So let's get into the basic rules and, more importantly, the key numbers you have to know. Here it is. This is the magic number you have got to remember for most of these situations. $600. If you paid any single person who isn't an employee $600 or more for their services during the year, that's it. That's the trigger. You absolutely have to issue them a 1099.
And what exactly is non-employee compensation? It's simple, really. It's anyone you paid for services who isn't on your regular W-2 payroll. We're talking about your freelancers, that consultant you hired for a project, or any independent contractor.
Okay, so now you know you need to send a form. But the next big question is, which one? You're going to hear about two main forms, the 1099 NEC and the 1099 MISC. And trust me, they're not the same thing. Let's clear up the confusion right now. So here's the deal, and this is the most important part. The 1099 NEC, that's NEC, is almost always for that non-employee compensation we just talked about. You're paying for services. The 1099 MISC, on the other hand, is for miscellaneous stuff, like the rent you pay for your office space. So just think, NEC is for people's work, MISC is for other things. But here's where the 1099 MISC can totally trip you up. While that $600 rule applies to things like rent, look at this number, $10. If you paid someone as little as $10 in royalties, you have to send them a 1099 MISC. It's such a tiny amount, and that's exactly why it is so easy to overlook. And of course, it wouldn't be tax season without some weird, tricky exceptions that seem designed to make you stumble, right? So let's tackle the curveballs and the most common points of confusion right now so you don't get caught by surprise. Okay, so the general rule of thumb is actually pretty straightforward. You usually don't have to send a 1099 to a vendor if they're a C Corp or an S Corp. But, and this is a really big but, you can't just assume that's the end of the story. Because there are huge exceptions to that rule. For instance, payments to an attorney or a law firm, they almost always require a 1099 NEC, even if they're a corporation. Same thing for certain medical and healthcare payments. Those often need a 1099 MISC. And this brings us to the black hole of confusion, LLCs. An LLC can be taxed in a whole bunch of different ways, like a sole proprietorship, a partnership, or even a corporation. So how in the world do you know what to do? The answer is simple. It's on their W-9 form. That form is your golden ticket. It tells you everything. Always check the W-9. Now, here's a little bit of good news that's going to save you some paperwork. If you paid a contractor through a third-party service like PayPal, Venmo, or Square, you do not send them a 1099. The payment company, PayPal or Square, is responsible for sending them a Form 1099-K. This is to make sure their income doesn't get reported twice. Okay, we've covered the rules, we've navigated the tricky exceptions. Now for the best part. Let's turn all this knowledge into a clear, stress-free action plan so you can get this done right and, avoid that last-minute panic. It really just boils down to 3 simple steps. First, and this is a game changer, get a completed W-9 from every single vendor before you ever pay them a dime. Make it your policy. Second, take a few minutes right now and look through your vendor info. Is their address right? Is the tax ID correct? And third, just make a simple checklist of who needs a form. A little bit of organization now saves a world of hurt later. All right, let's talk deadlines, because these are absolutely non-negotiable. For the 2025 tax year, the big date to circle on your calendar in huge red ink is February 2nd, 2026. That is the deadline to get the forms in the hands of your contractors. Now, as you can see, the dates for filing with the IRS might be a little different, especially if you e-file, so just make sure you know those too. And if you're wondering why we're making such a big deal about these deadlines, well, here's your answer: penalties. The IRS does not play around. The fines for being late or filing incorrectly start at $60 per form and can skyrocket to over $300 per form. If you have a bunch of contractors, that can add up faster than you can imagine. Suddenly, all that prep work we talked about looks like a pretty smart investment, doesn't it? So there you have it. We've broken it all down. You've got the rules, you know the exceptions, and now you have a clear plan. The only thing left to do is to actually start. So I'll leave you with this one question. What's one small thing you can do today, like right after this, to get the ball rolling and make this your most stress-free tax season ever?